Good morning and welcome to another OG design video. And today we're going to be walking through a garage and making some changes and doing some revisions that have been requested from the client, and just stuff that I know that we need to change after this first rough draft. If you'll remember, a few weeks ago we did a kind of a full walkthrough of our design process, going through our software, showing the very beginning, starting with a blank slate and adding walls and building out the structure, and then adding products like a boom pole and pressure washer and cabinets and lighting and all of that fun stuff. So this could be considered the next iteration of that kind of video process or video series, in that now we're taking a design that we've already done, we've already presented this to the client, and they've provided a little bit of feedback, but we're also kind of in this waiting period with them of them figuring out the architecture side of the building. So we know some things that we want to change, and then there's just things that I know that I want to change with the design before we kind of get going into the next steps. So today I'm going to walk you through the garage and walk you through really some of those changes that we're going to be making, and hopefully get to a more finished product by the time that we're done today. So first up, I've got this list that I've put together with the things that we need to modify with this design. Typically when we have a design that we've done for a client, they'll either email us back with a list of changes they want to make. It's either something drastic, like, hey, I'm totally changing my entire building design and I'm gonna completely change everything, or something as simple as just, hey, switch out that cabinet for something else. I know that looking at their original drawing that they had from the architect, I know that we need to fix the garage depth. We did it correctly based on what the number was, but now that I'm looking at it, I see that they were probably measuring from a different point. So I'll show you that in a second. We're going to move the lift to the back left of one of the garages. I'll show you that. It'll provide a little bit better working area and more room elsewhere in the garage. We're going to create, when we do that, a dedicated wash area then in the opposite corner in the front right. We're going to adjust the cabinet arrays and make some changes there. We're going to add some lighting in a certain area of the garage that doesn't really have much right now, and then we're going to go back through and really just tidy everything up, maybe make some other little minor changes throughout the design. So let's jump into the view here. So this is a live view in the software of this pretty cool garage. So it's kind of 2 4-car garages for the most part, kind of set up in this kind of wedge shape, pie shape, next to each other, which creates this pretty cool little kind of communal space here that is probably going to be their hangout area, as you can kind of see from what we've put in there so far, just as placeholders. And then this back room over here will be kind of like their quarantined off wood shop, which will be really cool. Cars and sawdust doesn't really mix very well, so we'll keep that as separate as we can. We've got, as you can see over in this far side, the parking area. So this is where they'll have some 4-post lifts. Maybe we'll do one of the the bin pack double wides. We haven't really gotten to that point yet. We're still very early on in the architecture and planning stage. Well, they are, and we're helping them, kind of come up with the layout of the building itself, so that then the architect can incorporate that into their drawing set and their plans. So you can kind of see some of the stuff that we have going on here. So this is more of just like a parking and storage over here on this side. We've got a boom pole for a potential electric car charger. We'll probably remove that power reel and put a charger there in its place. And then over on this side is more of the working area, where we're going to have a washing area and like a mechanic area in the back. And this is probably where I'll make some recommendations on changes for maybe some of the wall locations and stuff like that. So first things first, let's go fix the dimension that we have for this garage, and you'll see that we've overlaid. I don't really know how to show it here. Maybe I can just move it. How about that? Yeah, there we go. So they sent us a floor plan that the architect sketched up, and it's not exactly right. It was just kind of like a rough draft that they did, and then they came up with these dimensions that are pretty close. Once we actually measured it out and everything, but it was maybe a little off. So what we've done is we've basically put that onto the design, traced over it with walls and stuff like that, and then we're able to build out our garage based on that. So we knew that this was going to be 40 feet deep, so we matched that up, and then you can see that what they had drawn wasn't actually exactly 23 feet wide, but maybe they're using exterior dimensions. We're not really sure. We'll be able to make those adjustments once the architectural CAD drawings are actually completed and we have something a little more concrete to work with. You can see over on this garage where we're going to have to make some updates to the building. That's something that's really important for us, because if we're putting cabinets into a space or a lift or any of the products that we're putting into a space, we really have to have accurate dimensions. We've run into that problem in the past where we thought we were going to have a certain wall space, and the client said, okay, yep, I've got however many inches to work with, and we planned out a cabinet array that was going to fit almost too perfect in that space. Talk to them again. Hey, are you sure? Like, is this going to fit? Please measure again, make sure, yep, it's going to be great, no problems at all. Sure enough, they got the cabinets, didn't fit. You really need to make sure that you're getting us accurate dimensions, and then we, on our side, are very particular to make sure that we're getting everything as correct as we can. We're not architects, but we still have to get our part of the building to match up with what you have. So this building, you can kind of see the underlay here of the original sizing. It was a 40 by 23 building, so it's 23 wide on this side, or room, I guess, and then 40 feet deep. And I think what Scott ended up doing is that he measured from this back wall to the front, which makes sense, that's the largest dimension, and measured that at 40 feet. And so what he did was he just brought this front wall to match that. But I realized when I'm looking at this a little bit more, they were probably using this more inset wall as their measurement, whereas this back alcove is extra, which is awesome news, because that means that our garage here is even deeper than what I was thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and throw an interior measurement on this wall here across. So you can see we're at 35, and I'm going to bring that to 40 feet, which is going to give us a lot more space. Now you can see it matches. This line, where we have this wall matches with where they put theirs. Back walls still match pretty good. Depth or width is off a little bit, but not too worried about that. That'll be fine for our part of the process now. I'm going to go ahead and move the door over to match up. We'll just leave it right there, it's fine. This is probably going to change a little bit of our layout though, but that extra 4 or 5 feet is going to be fantastic for spacing in here. I'm going to mention to them, because nothing has been built yet. They're still going through the architecture and figuring out what this is all going to look like. I'm going to make a recommendation to them, just so we have some more room, to bump this wall over maybe to like somewhere in here, if they still want to have that exterior detail of having the different walls and it not just being this big brick, which I get and I understand. That'll give us some more room, because what I'm wanting to do with this lift is bring it back here. Create this as like the work area, work environment over in this left corner, but it's going to be a little tight because of this wall distance right here. I'm going to bump this up to like 16 feet and see what it looks like. So 16 feet, I think that works a little better. And let me review our list here. Yep. So this is the next thing that we're working on right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and center now this lift on that wall. just like this. If you're using Chief Architect or Home Designer, you can do Control G, allows you to align everything, which is super helpful. Like if I'm doing lights, you know, and I move a light, say I have a light somewhere else, I've just placed it on here. Well, I can jump in here and move things pretty quickly to get lined back up, which is super handy. So I like the spacing here. I'm gonna check my dimension though from the lift to the cabinets. 8 feet 4 inches, which is pretty solid. We typically like to leave at least 8 feet from the front of the lift to your cabinet. So that way you have enough room in front of your car, behind your car, and to be able to open your cabinets so that you still have room to walk and work and all of that stuff. It just, you know, you don't want it to get too tight. I'm gonna go ahead and just move that to 8 feet. So 96 inches, I'm gonna center the car back up on the lift. So you can see now where we would have been really close to this corner, now we've got plenty of room over here. This guy's got to move back over. And then we'll redo this cabinet array and this one as well. So that's a part of my list. You know, we're going to move the lift to the back left, and then this also then creates the dedicated wash area in the front right. There's not really anything we need to do for that specifically. It's kind of just a natural, you know, it's going to happen. I'm just going to copy this car and put one in the front here. So we have some idea of what kind of space we're working with. It's not a ton of room, but if you didn't have something on the lift, it could be enough. And this gives you now, rather than this lift being in the middle of the room, now we've got this room over here for extra parking if needed, and then, you know, same thing over here. So now we can really utilize this garage as a 4-car garage if we needed to. So that really gives Peter and his family the option to park 10 cars, which is pretty slick. One thing not on the list before I get into modifying the cabinets that I know we're going to need to work on as well is one of the ideas Peter and his family had was to create almost a step down area here for the daily drivers, or maybe putting everything else at a higher elevation. Their idea was to do, rather than Swiss tracks there, just do epoxy and have a hose there ready to go at all times so that they could just flush out that area and that it was separate from the rest of the space. And then you still have the Swiss tracks around so that, you know, as you step out of that, you're stepping onto Swiss tracks and then it'll collect, you know, any residual dirt and debris and stuff like that so that you're not tracking it all the way through and into the house and stuff. I think it works. I think it might work out pretty good. It's a different idea. It's not something that we've ever done before. I don't know how it will work with the lifts. Like, you'd have to have some kind of slight ramp up, so it's not like it could just be a curb, obviously. So we'll kind of talk to them about that and see what they're thinking. Maybe it'll be just a very gradual incline. I still think that Swiss tracks is the best choice, unless like you live in, you know, crazy northern Canada where it's just snow all the time. You know, that makes it a little difficult for dealing with Swiss tracks, but most of the time, especially places here in the States, it works out really well with managing all that snow and sludge and debris and stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and start modifying these cabinets. And we can throw a camera in here so you can see the space, how we've made these adjustments. So yeah, this is much better now. Rather than that car being in the middle, now we've got kind of a more dedicated work area in the back. And then at the same time, now we've got this wash area in the front. So now, you know, when we get into this space here in kind of 3D, you can see that we do have quite a bit of room. Even if you park this car more in the middle, I think he'd be fine. So it should be pretty good for washing. I'm going to modify these cabinets right here to probably give us a little bit more room still, just so that they're not encroaching on the washing area. Plus, since we increased the space back here, I don't think we're going to need as many cabinets. So that was one of the changes that I wanted to make with this design. That wasn't even anything from Peter, was just that we need to make this area more tool focused, this area more storage and detailing focused. So you'll see, as we jump into that, we'll make those changes now. And I'm going to do this from the top-down floor plan view rather than 3D. So I'm going to go through and make some changes to the cabinets, and then I can walk you guys through it once I'm done. All right, I've been modifying the cabinets here for a little bit, and I'm playing around with a kind of a detailing and bulk storage setup here on the right wall. I like to use the 1540, even though it's more of a tool cabinet, just because it's awesome. We really like those. You guys have heard us talk about that, but what I'm trying to figure out here is what to do with the lockers. So whenever I have a door, to the house or wherever this is coming from, I don't really like to put a locker cabinet right next to it, because then the cabinet array that's adjacent to that on the other side, so like say I move this down a little bit and put a locker cabinet there, all this lower cabinet space, that work area, feels closed off and inaccessible to you physically, like actually, but subconsciously too. Like your mind knows that, oh, like I got to go around that cabinet to get to that counter space. So I don't really like doing that as much as I can, but with this space and where the TV, I'm thinking about putting the TV, because I think I'm going to get rid of this one because it's a little weird there. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with audio. We've included a sync in this cabinet array, which I think makes a lot of sense, but I don't really know what to do with audio without it being kind of awkward. Whereas if I did put a locker there and I kind of end capped that cabinet array, this lower cabinet array with another locker, that would give me space to do, like Core 59s or something like that, like Matt does, right on top of those locker cabinets, which would be perfect. I think that we're probably going to go that route. I'm going to stick with this for a little bit though, just kind of see what I think, because I like the flow of when you come out of this doorway, that you come into the space and this cabinet array is just here and open. And you don't have to go around anything. Whereas if there was a locker cabinet there, it would be blocked off from you. I like this new setup over here with the, spinning too much. With the pressure washer, I moved that down. I moved the buckets and shelving over to that wall as well. Added some more lockers and then kind of changed this around. So I made this 1540 and the TV perfectly in the middle of this entire wall, which is pretty great. So I kind of like that. This kind of whole setup right here is right smack in the middle. But when you look at it visually like this, it doesn't really necessarily look that way because of the asymmetrical shape of the cabinet array and then the door being there and all of that. So I think we may just break away from that anyway. And then if we did do a cabinet, a tall cabinet right here, that would provide some really accessible detailing storage, because that really is the main focus of this space, is detailing. So if we had a cabinet there on that side, it kind of does make sense. So I think we're going to switch to that. I rearranged the cabinets here on the back wall. As you can see, I did a 1540 in the middle, 890 8 drawer to the right of that, 870 portable cabinet extra deep underneath an 890 bridge, 723 drawer, and 720 recycle bin. These cabinets don't actually go all the way to the walls. As you can see here, we do have a little bit of space, even accounting for the drywall. It's just that there's like a default function that it'll like extend the cabinet and snap into the corner like that, because these are technically kitchen cabinets. So this is looking pretty good. I'll add some under cabinet lighting to that here in a minute. And then I think I'm going to rearrange this cabinet right here. But that's looking a lot better, a lot more functional, and it'll be even better once we make these other changes right here. So next thing on the, stop spinning. Next thing on the list is add the lighting to that wedge area and then tidy up some other stuff. You know, we still don't really know what we're going to be doing with the floor over here for the dailies, but we have a long time to figure that out, like I mentioned. So I'll probably modify this little section after I finish the cabinets, and then do some lighting up here, and then we should be pretty well tidy up, at least for most of this. I'll go ahead and get some of these power reels kind of situated that are kind of put in some places that don't quite make sense to me. We've got a little lever rack workbench over here. I think that's a good, it's very functional, like those are very functional, but that placement doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm gonna move that around. You know, Scott's been with us for a little while now, but he's not inside my head in terms of where all of this stuff goes. So we haven't gone through this together. He just kind of, you know, went ahead and needed to get something in here. So he placed items and placed things and got it to a really, really good starting point that now gives us the opportunity to revise and make changes and stuff like that. So typically Scott's the one doing all these revisions, and then I'm, you know, just kind of translating that to him, whether it's from a drawing or, you know, quick little sketch, or we just talk about it. So let me finish up these cabinets, and then we'll start working on the lighting in this little central section here. All right, I've done some updating to the lighting throughout the whole building. I needed to modify a couple things, account for the extra depth that we had here because of the size adjustment that we made. I'll probably need to bring another fixture over here, maybe another LS4. It'll be super close to that, but I think it'll be okay. Or maybe we'll just tell them to bump that wall out a little bit more to make room for that. Actually, I like that idea a lot, so I'm gonna go ahead and do my transform tool. I think it's still correct on, yep, that size, and then let's go ahead and make this like 17 feet, just for kicks. Nah, you know what, I'm gonna leave it, it's fine. That's not too little space there, I don't think, so that'll be good. So now I'm going to work on this area. I'm just going to leave the chairs and the hangout area and the wine cooler and stuff like that for now. You know, maybe they'll want a little fridge in there. Not everybody's met. You know, it's nice to be able to grab a cold beverage while you're in the garage sometimes. But this will just be kind of placeholder stuff for now, which is fine. But I do need to add some lighting in here. So I think what we'll do is we can plan for some Cree KR Series. Since these are going to be a little bit higher ceilings, it's new construction. The SLG lights, which can be 5,000, are really just like general ambient type of lighting. They're not going to be very direct. And because of the high ceiling, I think we need something that's going to be a little bit more pointed right at the space. I think if we do the higher lumen output KR series, I think that would work pretty well. So this isn't a huge huge area, so we probably only need like 3 or so, something like that. We don't really need them that close to the walls, so I think like one there, and then one there. Yeah, I don't know. See, this gets tricky because it's this kind of funky pie shape. Maybe we line it up on this wall. How about that? So this is kind of the struggle, especially with lighting and stuff like this, is like, all right, where do you line it up? Do you just put light where it's needed so that it illuminates the space, or do you try and make it symmetrical? You know, there's a million different ways that you could go about it. I think looking at this, I need to be less focused on the actual like pie shape that's created here and more focused on the other lights, and get everything like centered up with these other lights. I think would look the best probably. So I'm gonna do a CAD line here and kind of split the angle difference between these two garages, hopefully. Like that, looks pretty good. Like that. And then all of this again is just placeholder, so that can be modified, that can be changed. So let me grab these two guys and then we'll center them on that. now, so we did actually do what I said I wasn't going to do, which was align it with the pie shaped, but because of the distance off of the walls with the other lights, that works perfect. So this angle looks kind of weird just because of kind of where we're standing and stuff. But actually, I think that's really good. I really like that a lot. Yep, so that'll be good. And then we'll just specify those as Cree KR Series new construction downlights. All right, I like that. I think that's pretty good. And it might make sense too, you know, as we go through this design that we add more of those elsewhere. I think they provide a really good look and can add some other detail that the Cree lights don't really add. I, for one, really enjoy having a recessed can that provides a little bit of a shadow. So I think if we, let's go 60 inches, see what that puts us at. If you add these, you know, strategically throughout your space, not so much for like your work lighting and stuff like that, but just as like an accent, it can be really cool. It might even make sense maybe over on this side, you know, whether they want spotlighting or diffused lighting for like the cars that are on the lifts. You know, maybe we do some KR series over there. Or, you know, one thing we could do also is create, you know, maybe in this garage, like a little bit of a walking path. Maybe we separate the linear fixtures over to this area, and then do some of the recessed cans here, right in the middle. That might work. The other thing I need to do is add some lighting for the this room over here where the wood shop is going to be. And I don't really know what our lighting spec needs to be in here right now, but I'm going to just do some linear fixtures like this. Let's go 72 inches, see what that looks like. Yep, that works pretty well. And then let's add an LS4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually drag and line this guy up like that. And then over here we probably need a LS8. Yeah, see, that's not really going to work because now I've got this funky off thing here. So there's no way for us to make that really line up the way that I was thinking it would in my head. So, no, this is not working. It's not working at all. So let's get rid of that. Let's try a different approach here. You want a lot of light in here because this is going to be a wood shop. So, yeah, okay, here we go. Little angle there. And then we'll do a couple this way. And then because it's so concentrated now, we'll probably do lower lumen output fixtures. This is going to be the 80 or 8,000 lumen variant. You know, one thing that still needs to be modified and we need to make some changes to our lift control placement. Maybe over here makes more sense rather than on this corner. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So this is a part of the, you know, our last step here of just kind of tidying things up, making sure that everything, you know, looks right, and, you know, other little details like this are good to make sure that we have correct. Now, I like putting air wheels and power wheels right above a lift control box because you're kind of already taking up space there. So then if you put something up above, it's not taking up any extra space. So whenever I'm designing, I'm always looking for opportunities to do that. So think about that when you're you know, placing an air compressor or lift controls or reels or something like that. Try and use all the vertical space with something so that you don't just have air reels on the wall or you don't just have something that's on the ground. It's good to be able to use that entire vertical space so that you're not you know, wasting it elsewhere and all of that. So I really like being able to do that when I can. All right, well, that's pretty much it for this revision. It's not 100%, but until we get more feedback from the client, I think that this is good so that we're not just wasting time adding little details and changing things around, and then we find out that that's not the direction that they wanted to go anyway. So for now, because we're still in these very early stages, I'm gonna leave it as it is. I like the cabinet layout. We still need to add some under cabinet lighting, which isn't too hard to do. We adjusted the lighting throughout the space and really kind of just tidied up and made things a little bit better with like that workbench and stuff like that. I changed some of the orientation of the lifts and the cars just to center up everything in the room, especially with these lights and all of that. We didn't need as much lighting over here since this isn't a workspace. It's really just for parking. So I eased that up. You can see that we only have 3 linear sections rather than 4 like in the garage over here. This is dedicated washing and working and all of that. So we needed a lot of light over there, whereas we don't need as much on this side. Added some little detail, Cree KR fixtures here, which I think will be really good. We added some right in the middle. We modified the cabinet arrays over here. We changed up the pressure washer situation, moved the lift over into this area, which I think works a lot better. Moved this workbench over into the wood shop. That's still completely undecided on what we're going to be doing in there. I'm not sure yet. But I think this is overall a little more clean, and something that hopefully the client now can kind of give us some ideas on of what they'd like to see changed or what they'd like to see going forward, or we may just be kind of in a holding pattern until they get everything fully updated with their architect and all of that, and as we go through more design revisions with them. I did move this boom pole right here from this other corner that it was on. This can be used. This is technically a Mosmatic air boom, but if you add a certain grommet to it and certain things, it becomes an EV boom for your electric charger, so that way you can swing the cord back out of the way and not have it dangling on the floor and all of that stuff. I think it makes sense more in this corner so that we can connect it to, like the rear or different point of the car. Whereas over here, most charger places are on the rear of a car. So if you're pulling in straight, this would be a little easier. Maybe we put another one over on this side too. That's kind of undecided. We'll figure that out, along with everything else as we go through the process with them. I removed some of the artwork just to kind of get that out of there until we really know what they want to do in the space. I'm probably going to modify that power reel that's just in the middle of the wall. Other than that, though, this is pretty much ready to go. I think we're ready to kind of finalize this, send it over to the client. They will let us know what they want to change or whatever kind of modifications they want to make. Or at a time like this, once we've made a change, it's great to be able to jump on a Google Meet call with the client, and we can run through this in real time, because it's a lot, as you guys know from seeing this in video, it's a lot easier to digest and to get an idea for the spacing of everything and where everything is when we're in camera and can just move around the space. So we'll probably do that with them in this next phase to go through some of these changes and see what else we can do to further refine this and make this exactly the way that they want it. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can still add in and do. But this garage is shaping up to be pretty cool, so I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. Maybe we'll give you guys another update down the road once we have something more concrete, or maybe some high quality renders and stuff like that. Also, if you guys want to work with us on designing your entire garage and all of the parts and pieces that go inside and come up with something really cool like we did here with Peter, reach out to us, design@obsessedgarage.com, and we can kind of walk you through what the process looks like and get you into our queue. But that's it from me today. Hopefully you guys got some good stuff from this. This is a really cool garage that, again, I can't wait to see how it progresses and what we're going to be able to do with this in the future as we get more official plans from Peter and his family. But this one is shaping up to be pretty cool. I'll see you guys next time.